And we built a house on Pacific Palisades, and it started to fall into the ocean. And that was killing Charles. And then he made a Night of a Hunter, and it was panned, and it failed. And it's now one of the greatest classic movies of all time.
Indeed.
But she says those were the two things that really ended his life. He really sort of gave up after that.
Today, our pal Scott Michaels is helping another celebrity get a headstone. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins now. Cemetery is all festive for Dia de los Muertos. Looks like she won't be too far from the portal of the folded wings. Our pal Scott Michaels several times has found celebrities that didn't have a headstone and raised the funds to provide one for them. And years ago when I lived here, I did a vlog on the great Charles Lawton, who was the teacher of my friend Shelley Winters, and his wife was ELSA Lanchester, and nobody ever knew what happened to ELSA, where she was buried or anything, and Scott found it, and that's what we're here to commemorate today. Scott and I tend to like people who are not only great actors, which both were on stage and screen, but people that are characters in real life. And they both were that. If you've never watched an interview with ELSA, go look her up on Dick Cavett. She's hilarious. And if you're like, maybe I don't know who she is, she was the bride of Frankenstein. I was told there's going to be a look-alike of the bride of Frankenstein. That's great. Yeah, she was hilarious. She actually said when she was growing up that her family could only afford to send her to the only school around, which was an all-boys school. So she went to an all-boys school till she was 8, and then that closed, and she said couldn't afford to go anywhere else, so that was the end of her education. But she said she was very smart. She said there's a difference between being educated and smart, and she was very smart. She said kids that have to grow up on the streets become smart. All right, Scott, like they say, you've done it again. What prompted this? I know, we both love Charles Lawton and ELSA Lanchester. Nobody knew where she was. How did you find this?
My buddy Jim Lacey in Ohio, he and I were talking. We exchanged death certificates as like our trading cards. And he said, I was looking for somebody here in the cemetery, and he said, oh, by the way, did you know ELSA Lanchester's in here? I was like, what? Are you kidding me?
So weird, because Charles is in Hollywood is over at Forest Lawn, Hollywood, right?
Yeah. So when ELSA died, she wanted no fanfare. She wanted no funeral, nothing. She didn't want anything. And she didn't like Forest Lawn. She called it the ogre of the sticks, because the Styx River, because they're all commercialized.
Yeah, very.
So I guess it's her agent Herschel Green made the arrangements. The burial documents are online, and I traced it down. I called here, and just to verify it, and they said no, she's not here. They did more looking. She's under Lawton. She's also Lawton.
So obvious.
So she was put here about 2 weeks after she died. She's in the Rose Garden in one of those 4 sections. She's in an urn. She's not scattered, but they don't know exactly where she is.
Okay.
She is in one of the 4 sections around the bench area. This happened so quickly.
I understand not wanting fanfare, but it's kind of surprising she wouldn't want a headstone. Was there any reason? Do you know?
I don't know. And everybody thought she was scattered. I don't know where that even came from, but in every biography, every documentary,
I think I even probably said that.
Yeah, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
And so it's even her biographers who study her. They're like archivists. They had no idea. So it's really a surprise, and it's really a delight because it all worked out. Her birthday is today, and Halloween is in 3 days.
Yeah.
And it's the 90th anniversary of the Bride of Frankenstein this year. So it's just perfect. I'm so
That's
thrilled.
awesome. I'm so glad that you found this. I just can't figure out, because they were so close. I mean, when you think about how many movies and how many stage productions, I mean, we're talking, he used to be Captain Hook and she was Peter Pan. I mean, well, which is crazy. Yeah, which is crazy as it is, but just they were that close in life and everything. And he had, you know, some kind of crazy stories about his lifestyle that she seemed to accept and everything. So I'm just kind of shocked that they, you know, that he wasn't somewhere else, I guess.
Yeah,
but
I guess they made their home here, and they were sick. It was not a priority.
Yeah,
their priority was them taking care of themselves while they were sick. And Elsa had a bad last couple of years. She was in the motion picture country home. She had several strokes, and she'd nothing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So she left everything to them. Well, she left some, like, to an animal charity, to her pianist. She left some money to each of those, but the bulk of her estate is the motion picture country home. I don't know what kind of residuals or royalties she gets, because Bride of Frankenstein was made in 1935.
Yeah,
you know, so probably I think she got $2,500.
But maybe her likeness, because her likeness is used so frequently.
You would think, on dolls and
and everything Universal.
Yeah. So we'll see, but I don't know. We won't see. I don't know, but at least she's getting a name here, and I'm really happy with that.
Any chance we can get a sneak peek of the headstone before?
No, because they're bringing it in. It's not even a headstone. Yeah, it's a little plaque. It's
a little plaque. Okay,
plaque.
So we're actually going to see the whole thing happen, just not an unveiling.
We're going to text Jesus, and he's going to come and install it while we're here.
Awesome. A nice lady just came up and gave me an Elsa pin. I love it. They have a really good turnout. This is a weekday. It's a Tuesday, just before 11. I wasn't sure, you know, in October how many people would come out for this, but we have quite a few people out here. A couple people have recognized us, so everybody's kind of gathering over here because we showed you they had all the pictures of her and everything over there. But she's actually, as Scott was telling us, she's already interred in the rose garden over here. It's a nice display. You never know what you'll see at something Scott Michaels is a part of. It's one heck of a turnout, honestly. They were telling me this is probably the biggest they've ever had for one of these.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you're here for this little dedication. It's been almost 40 years since ELSA Lanchester died. It's bizarre that nobody knew that she was actually here for this long. Just a friend of mine, Jim Lacey, who I have to give a major shout out to, a few months ago just said, "Did you know Elsa's in the rose garden here?" And I said, "No, are you kidding me?" So we did some research, and sure enough, and Suhail Simon from Valhalla verified it, and we were able to. There he is. There's Suhail Simon right over here.
Very helpful.
So they've worked with us. They have worked with us. We've done this a few times before. We had probably the most recent was the Mighty Mishu, just on the other side of the cemetery. Of course, Ken Weatherwax. Yeah. So here we go. Now, a new friend of mine, Charlotte Booker, who has an Elsa show. She travels in an Elsa show. It's called She's Alive, and a one-woman show, which I've seen clips of, and it's fantastic. And I asked Charlotte. I know her as the bride. I think most of us know her primarily as the bride. And not the bride. They called her the Bride of Frankenstein, but Dr. Frankenstein was a doctor, and he wasn't his bride, it was the monster's bride, which is just kind of interesting that they called it that. And he says, the Bride of Frankenstein. So, but she was actually the monster's bride. I just think it's kind of fun. But anyway, Charlotte wrote up a little bio for me because I know the bride. Charlotte knows her life. And I figured,
Nicely planned.
Lovely Charlotte, who travels with the show She's Alive, wrote this up. She says Elsa was much more than the Bride of Frankenstein. She was born a socialist, a pacifist, an atheist, a suffragist, a vegetarian in London in 1902. And if that wasn't scandalous enough, her mother Biddy was briefly institutionalized for refusing to marry Elsa's father. And the reason they committed her to an institution is because of over-education, was what they called, what they said for her. So it was a different time. She was sort of grown up a bohemian, and her education was spotty. She briefly attended a boys' school. She was the only female in a boys' school. And she had a brother named Waldo, who was a very well-known puppeteer, very famous puppeteer, actually. She was chosen to study dance with Isadora Duncan in Paris, and she tells great stories about Isadora Duncan. She quit the school because Isadora would sit on a big, like, painting couch in the morning And people would have to come in and kiss her hand. And Elsa's like, I'm not doing that. So she quit, which I think is quite cool. She became, she started doing the nightclub appearance, one-woman shows. H.G. Wells and Evelyn Waugh wrote silent film roles for her. And she was deemed the female Charlie Chaplin. She was cast in 27 in a London play with Charles Laughton, one of the greatest actors of his generation, and they were married in 1929. Now, 2 years later, Charles' very well-known story confessed to Elsa. She didn't catch him in the act, but he confessed to Elsa that he was indeed a homosexual. Scandalous. And what she said was, she said to him, that's all, well, actually, the fun part, he told her that he and this young man had sex on their sofa in the living room. And she said, that's all right, dear, we can get rid of the sofa. They remained married for 33 years. In fact, in Soho, in London, just outside Soho, Percy Street, where the sofa incident happened, there was a blue plaque for Charles Laughton, which is a huge British honor to have a blue plaque installed on Charles Laughton's home. And very recently, they installed one in Elsa's home with her mother in Battersea. In Britain, so it's quite neat that she's getting this recognition today, her 123rd birthday. It's so exciting, and Bride of Frankenstein is 90 years this year. It just worked out perfectly. So she became, well, you can see these albums. She loved performing in music halls. She did sort of naughty Victorian songs, and so that was sort of her thing. She was a bit of a naughty person. She loved, she had sort of the sly wink kind of a person, and she was just a really well-rounded entertainer. One of the last TV interviews she did, she said, I've had the happiest life of anyone I know. She died in the motion picture home at the age of 84 of pneumonia after a series of strokes. And up until this point, everyone thought that she was scattered in the Pacific Ocean. Biographers, historians, archivists, they've all said she's scattered. So it was just fascinating that she ended up being right under our nose the whole time, actually in the Rose Garden, just over behind you guys. Not in the center bit, but she's buried, her urn is in one of the, it's difficult to locate exactly, but she's in one of the four pieces of around the center point of that. So, and also, she's had wonderful books, wonderful documentaries. There is a biography called The Bride of the Hunchback that will be released in the UK in the next few months. And you can get her music online on YouTube, and she's just loads of fun to listen to. So a major shout out again to my friend Jim Lacey, and now I want to bring up James Bartlett, who wrote a nice piece for the BBC and was published today, and he's going to say a few words.
Thanks for coming today. It's great to see you all. As you can tell probably from my accent, I'm from England. Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you all hear me at the back? Yes. I'm from England originally, so I thought I had to represent perhaps a bit for her. Yes, there is a piece today about Elsa and about this event that's happening now on BBC, on the BBC website, bbc.com, in the news section, so you can read a little bit more about her. And we did a little bit of, just reached out to a few actors and said, oh, is the microphone gone? Can you still hear me? Yes. Yes. I'll just talk normally. So we reached out to some of the actors who had worked with her in the past to see if they had any memories of her. Obviously, a lot of them are not with us, but I did manage to get in touch with Bruce Davison, who some of you'd certainly recognize his face. He's been in about 300 movies. He was Oscar nominated for A Longtime Companion, if any of you remember that film. He was in a couple of the X-Men movies, but he was also in 1971 in Willard, which I'm sure some of you have seen. Yes, it got remade a few years ago, but he was the original. He was Willard. Actually, Bruce has turned up.
Thank you everybody for being here. I was really lucky. Elsa got to play my mother in Willard.
Yay!
And she was the closest one to me on the set that I got to be. She really was wonderful. There was an opportunity, I don't know whether James had said it or not, but she gave me great acting advice to start with. We shot at Paramount, and we used to go over to Nickadill's for lunch, and one day I said, I was going through a rough time trying to do it as a young kid. I was in my 20s. And she said, well, let me give you some advice as an actor. when a director is giving you a load of codswallop, say, that's very interesting. That's very good. Let me try to incorporate that into what I'm doing, and then do whatever the bloody hell you want. I had a great opportunity to spend time with her at her home, and she had collected a stone on the beach, a sandstone, and it was shaped like this. It went down, and then it had a thing like that with a big nose on the end, and she kept it on her mantelpiece, and she called it her de Gaulle stone. She had that wonderful sense of humor, and she had a big tree trunk upside down next to her with all the branches cut off of it, and they were all going up like that, and right in the middle she'd painted a little black head of hair and a little mustache, and it was all
Oh my gosh!
that was her sense of humor.
Wow.
She had wonderful gatherings and soirees at her house, and Christopher Isherwood, I remember meeting there, and Don Bacardi, who I got to know later. But I asked her one time, we were sitting there, and I said, she said, you know, Charles, I wanted to tell you that, you know, don't worry about things that happen that fail you, because that can kill you, because later on you never know. And we built a house on Pacific Palisades, and it started to fall into the ocean, and that was killing Charles. And then he made a Night of a Hunter, and it was panned, and it failed. And it's now one of the greatest classic movies of all time. But she says those were the two things that really ended his life. He really sort of gave up after that. But what I remember more than anything else about her was her love. I mean, she just would put her arms around you and say, let me take care of you. She was really that woman. I'm here. Let me take care of you. I'll show you what to do. I'll show you how to survive in this town. But always remember, it's Burt Lancaster and it's ELSA Lanchester.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, and thank you so much for coming. What an honor to actually have someone here that knew her.
I did ask him as well whether she ever talked about playing the bride, what she thought about it, whether she felt it had really affected her career, or whether it had been a good thing or a bad thing. He said she was really glad for the bride role. That was what he said. She talked about it. She understood what it had done for her. He would take a Super 8 camera, which I'm sure we all remember, onto the set and film occasionally. And one day they were filming the house is just off Wilshire, down by, is it the Masonic Centre? It's an art gallery now. The house is still there, and they filmed in the house. He would take a Super 8 onto the set and film, you know, and he filmed her one day, and she was standing at the top of the stairs, and she did The Bride of Frankenstein.
Wow.
He filmed it. He did it. It was for a joke.
Awesome.
He did it for everybody there. He did it deliberately. You know, she did it. So and he had that one. He's got it on Super 8 somewhere, but he doesn't know where. But he said he remembered that. And then we did get yesterday. We did get a letter from Lynn Lugosi Sparks. She did send some details through, so I'm just going to read it today. To the fans of ELSA Lanchester who are honouring her today. Although I do not have any personal stories to share with you about ELSA and my grandfather, Bela Lugosi, they did have a very important thing in common. They were part of the elite group of actors who played the classic monsters, Elsa the Bride and Bela Count Dracula. These monsters have stood the test of time, as each of their iconic performances have inspired horror films and interpretation of their characters that follows. It is so important to remember the actors behind these monsters. I realise how special it is for fans to visit the final resting place of the actors they admire and who's had such an influence on their lives. I regularly hear from people who tell me they have visited Bela Lugosi's grave to pay tribute to him. Being able to touch the gravestone and lay flowers allows for a visceral connection with him. It is wonderful that after so long, Elsa is finally being honoured with a memorial plaque that fans can visit and honour her place in Hollywood history. not only for her role in Bride of Frankenstein, for her many other roles in her long and successful career. As I endeavour to keep the legacy of Bela Lugosi alive for the next generations, I can appreciate the devotion and effort it took to make this dedication to ELSA Lanchester possible. Congratulations to Scott and to all those who contributed to the creation of the plaque. I'm sorry I could not be there in person to join the celebration, but I look forward to visiting soon. Lynn Lugosi Sparks.
This is something I just put together myself, a little bit more about, well, about us too. You know, as I mentioned, Johnny Arthur, Jonathan Hale, Thelma Pellish, James Anderson, Mishu, and Ken Weatherwax. It's just down the middle of the road, Pugsley Adams. It was Halloween. It was about 4 years ago, I think, that we marked him. So it's an honor to do this. And now Elsa, on her 123rd birthday. So this came about a few months ago. I mentioned to you about my buddy Jim, who mentioned it to me, who lives in Ohio. We trade death certificates. It's like, so then, as I mentioned, I got in touch with Suhail at Valhalla, who's worked with us before, and they were so generous with their time and letting us do this. And Elsa, I mean, the only female monster. I mean, she's iconic. You know, you can name female horror leads, scream queens, things like that. But, and of course, the females played monsters in the movies, but Elsa, I mean, my God. And for 7 minutes on film in that movie, only 4 as the bride, and not a word spoken by the bride in that film. I think that is just a testament to her. And the fact that so many people emulate that hairdo, you know what I mean? That's become, Madeline Kahn did it, and Magenta in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. You know, they did that like Hostess cupcake swirly thing, and that was her hair. I mean, there's a museum in New York that has a wig, and they say it's hers, but it was her hair. They put a wire thing in it, and they brought it all up, and she had it done every morning at Universal. She had her makeup done, I believe, at the Garden of Allah, which is where they were staying at the time. And then she was angry with the makeup guy too, because she said you could have just bought plastic scars and put them on her, but he was doing like 5 hours worth of these scars and stuff. It was kind of funny, and she was funny too. She would wear, she was all wrapped up, and at the beginning of the movie, all you saw were her eyes for the longest time, and she said that her eyes were like burning because they made her keep them open all the time. But the set was so hot, and when she had this sort of dress thing on, she was bawdy, you know. She did her Cockney songs, and she just flashed the set. You know, I mean, it wasn't lascivious; it was just funny. You know, she was hot and be comfortable and get a laugh out of it. So, but she had the marvelous gift of making everything just a little bit alive, peculiar, and more fun. Of course, the bride, but then there were so many other roles that she took on. My favorite Elsa period is sort of the 70s Elsa. You know, that's when I got turned on to her. And when you're talking about movies like Murder by Death, you know, and Arnold, which is one of my favorite movies. It's such a weird movie about Stella Stevens who marries a dead guy. It's so good. And but she always played. I'll let this go. One of my favorite episodes of Night Gallery. And if you remember ELSA Lanchester, she lived in a house that wanted to be bought by developers. She refused to leave it. She loved puttering around in her garden, which is kind of cool because she's in the rose garden right across the street right now. And she said, everything grows here. I've got green fingers. So, and also people often wonder why Elsa's not with Charles Laughton. When he died in 1962, they didn't make preparations for their death. I believe that they bought it at need. You know, when he died, they said, well, we got to buy a grave now. So she wasn't make arrangements for her. He's full burial at Forest Lawn, but she didn't like Forest Lawn. She chose not to be buried there. She called it the Ogre of the Sticks. Because of the commercialization. They were trying to sell her more things and more things. And she just, I do not want to be there. She didn't want anyone to know where she was. She didn't want anyone to know where her funeral was. She just wanted to go under the radar. So I felt that a nice sort of compromise, you know, because Elsa, we're not marking her grave. This is a cenotaph symbolizing her grave, which is across the street. So I think it's a good compromise. I really do. So it also gives Elsa the sort of the aloneness and the privacy she wanted, but also a place where we can all come and pay our respects for her. But if you want to leave flowers, she's over there, just so you know. And so here we are paying tribute to Elsa, who could make us laugh, startle us, charm us, and make us feel like the world is a little more magic. So I want to thank a couple of people for helping out. Suhail, Dominga, and Marcia from the cemetery. Thank you for being here today. I just met Jo Beth for the first time today. Where's Jo Beth? Jo Beth, where are you? There you are. Jo Beth is Elsa at Universal Studios. Oh. Do you have a second to talk about? You were telling me about those wonderful. Do you mind? I want to put you on the spot. I don't. If you'd rather.
Yeah, I will. I will.
Okay.
I will.
I love what you told me. I love what you told me.
Yeah.
Hey, I made it.
So, I mean, I've obviously, as you can tell by the way I kind of present, I've always been a fan of Elsa. And it's been incredibly, incredibly special to be able to portray one of her characters. And it's so important to me to play it the way she played her, because I'm trying to be, you know, what she created. And it's so wonderful to be in the position to every day see how much she meant to people, because people come up to me every day and there are always at least a couple people who come up to me with tears in their eyes, and they'll give me a hug and say, I love you so much. You mean so much to me. You have no idea how much you mean to me. And they're not talking to me. Like, they're talking to Elsa. And so, like, that legacy that she left, that is still so visceral and strong. And tiny little children who already love her.
Yeah.
And so it's being, like, her work is being passed on generation to generation. And that's just, it's so incredible. And I'm so fortunate that I get to see that.
Oh, there he is, Jesus. Okay, thank you. Jesus is going to do the honor of placing Elsa's marker.
We're all watching.
Right now, pretending no one's here.
No pressure.
It's only live throughout the world.
All right.
Yay, Elsa!
Yay. Elsa. Right here next to John Eric Hexum. Bride of Charles Lawton. How appropriate. Oh my gosh, friends of the channel. Our friend Lauren, Lauren has done a lot of stuff with me, actually. We've done Lucy's house. She was the one that actually helped me get to the spider pool and everything. So Lauren is just an awesome person. And of course, I should have known something cool in Hollywood, she'd be here. Look at her shirt.
Everybody. Look, official Universal Monsters merch. So
Awesome. Good to see you.
good to see you too.
Bruce Davidson's over here talking to Abe Lincoln. Well, this has been a great event. Some of your favorite YouTubers have been here, other than Scott and I. I just met Arthur Dark from Hollywood Graveyard. I think I saw Grimlife around here somewhere. It's great to see everybody coming together for Classic Hollywood. Well, I think we're going to call it a day. Like Scott said, kind of a happy compromise. Now she's acknowledged over there with a plaque, but she's over here in peace and anonymity somewhere in this garden the way she would have loved it. Thank you all for watching. Happy birthday, Elsa Lanchester. Goodbye.